Imagine discovering that the very internal frictions you've spent years suppressing are actually the markers of a psychological evolution so rare it borders on the miraculous. Carl Jung, the father of analytical psychology, once identified a specific group of individuals whose inner architecture differs fundamentally from the collective mass. He argued that a mere handful of people, perhaps 1 in every 50, carry a mental weight so distinct that it shapes their entire reality into something most will never perceive. Today, we are going to explore the 7 hidden psychological trials that indicate you possess this extraordinary cognitive structure. But there is a caveat. Once you recognize these patterns within yourself, your perception of your own identity will be permanently altered. You cannot unsee the truth of your own rarity. Throughout his extensive career, Jung encountered patients who defied every standard diagnostic category. These were not broken souls, rather, they were pioneers operating with psychological faculties that seemed almost otherworldly. Jung dedicated 4 decades to mapping these specific archetypes, and his findings dismantled everything we thought we understood about the human ego. He realized these outliers weren't just anomalies, they were the precursors to a new stage of human development. However, being the first to evolve in a stagnant world is an agonizing experience. These 7 obstacles aren't accidents. They are the forge in which a higher consciousness is tempered. If these resonate, you aren't just an outsider. You are a vital link in the chain of human survival. Ask yourself, are you prepared to learn why your alienation was actually a secret initiation? Because the final trial we discuss will redefine your entire reason for existing. Trial 1. The heavy burden of unrelenting introspection. Jung observed that the majority of humanity drifts through life in a state of unconscious participation, never pausing to look behind the curtain of their own motives. But if you are drawn to these words, you likely lack that luxury. Do you find yourself trapped in a continuous loop of analyzing your own impulses, origins, and reactions? Do you observe your own thoughts as if you were a stranger in your own head? If so, you are carrying what Jung considered one of the most exhausting psychological loads a human can endure. Jung noted that rare individuals possess a hyperactive reflective capacity. You don't just experience a moment, you dissect it while it's happening. This might seem like an intellectual gift, but it often feels like a prison. Constant self-observation is the price of a truly sovereign mind. While others act on instinct, you are paralyzed by the need to understand the why behind every gesture. Imagine trying to speak while simultaneously evaluating the tone of your voice, the intent of your words, and the potential judgment of the listener. Jung called this psychological paralysis. You become so aware of the actor that you can no longer play the part naturally. Every genuine impulse is filtered through a dozen layers of critique until the raw emotion is stifled. Jung documented numerous cases of people who became spectators of their own lives, unable to feel surprise because they had already predicted their own emotional trajectories. Yet, there is a hidden utility to this torment that remains invisible until you reach the 4th trial. This hyper-awareness is a training ground. You are essentially building a detailed map of the human psyche. By suffering through this internal scrutiny, you are becoming a navigator of consciousness, capable of leading others through their own mental wilderness with a precision that only comes from having walked every dark corridor of your own soul. Trial 2. The phenomenon of emotional permeability. Jung identified a startling trait in rare personalities. They don't just observe the emotions of others, they physically and mentally absorb them. Have you ever entered a room and felt a sudden wave of dread or excitement that didn't belong to you? Do you find yourself unintentionally mirroring the anxiety or sorrow of those around you? Jung termed this psychic permeability. Most people have thick psychological skin that shields them from the external emotional climate. However, you might have what Jung described as porous walls. You are an emotional lightning rod, drawing in the static of every person you encounter. This isn't mere empathy, it's an inability to switch off your sensory radar. Think of yourself as a sponge in a sea of unprocessed human trauma. In a busy city, you aren't just walking through a crowd, You are walking through a storm of conflicting energies. A stranger's frustration becomes your headache. A friend's hidden grief becomes your sudden fatigue. Jung saw patients who had to withdraw from society entirely because the psychic noise was deafening. But here is the revelation. This isn't a malfunction. Jung secretly viewed these individuals as emotional alchemists. You are unconsciously taking in the heavy shadow emotions of your environment and attempting to transmute them. There is a danger here, though: psychic overflow. You can lose your own identity in the flood of external data. You become a martyr for the collective, doing the emotional labor that others are too weak to face. To feel everything is to be a vessel for the world's transformation. This absorption only stops being a curse when you realize you are a transformer, not just a container. Once you learn to process this energy, you shift from being a victim of the crowd to a silent healer of it. Trial 3: The isolation of a profound mind in a shallow era. Jung famously remarked that the true tragedy isn't pain, but the absence of anyone who understands the depth of your thoughts. If your personality is rare, you have likely felt this profound loneliness since childhood. You yearn for discussions regarding the nature of reality, the soul, and the infinite, while the world seems satisfied with the trivial. Jung found that rare types have a depth-seeking drive. Your brain is wired to find the root, the mystery, and the underlying meaning. The problem is that society is terrified of depth. Most people use superficiality as a shield to avoid the uncomfortable truths that deep thinking unearths. When you try to share your vision, you are met with blank stares or told you are too intense. This creates a specific kind of exile, living in a world where you speak the native language but no one understands your dialect. Imagine being at a party where everyone is talking about sports or fame, while you are contemplating the architecture of the subconscious. This isn't about being better than others. It's a fundamental psychological hunger. Jung believed you are a pioneer of the spirit. The depth that makes you feel so isolated is actually your mind exploring the frontier of what humanity will eventually become. You are thinking thoughts that the masses won't grasp for another century. You aren't overthinking, you are scouting. Every deep insight you struggle with is a contribution to the collective evolution of our species. You feel alone because you are standing on a peak that most haven't even begun to climb. Trial 4: The compulsion for truth and the gift of pattern recognition. Jung noted that certain people possess an allergy to the superficial. Do you find it impossible to accept just because as an answer? Do you see the invisible threads connecting events that others think are random? This is truth-seeking compulsion. For you, the surface of reality is just a veil. While most people are happy within consensus reality, the safe, agreed-upon lies of society, you are driven to tear the veil down. You can't watch a film without seeing the archetypal symbols. You can't sit in a meeting without sensing the hidden power dynamics. This trait makes you an uncomfortable mirror. When you point out the patterns others ignore, you aren't just sharing facts, you are threatening their comfort. People often react with hostility when you expose the illusions they rely on to survive. Yet, Jung realized this is your evolutionary function. You are mapping the hidden structures of existence so that when the current systems fail, a new path is already visible. You are the architect of the next reality, even if you currently feel like a nuisance to the present one. Trial 5: The jarring paradox of extreme emotional range. Jung discovered a baffling phenomenon in rare personalities: the capacity to feel everything and absolutely nothing simultaneously. Have you experienced seasons of such intense passion that it felt like you might shatter, followed by a sudden cold numbness? Jung called this expanded emotional bandwidth. Your system is designed for high-voltage experiences. You feel joy as euphoria and sorrow as a total eclipse of the soul. But the human psyche has a circuit breaker. When the intensity becomes too great, your mind disconnects to prevent total burnout. This leads to a confusing cycle of being too much for people, then suddenly appearing heartless or detached. This isn't instability, it's the result of having a Ferrari engine in a world built for golf carts. You are an emotional explorer, testing the limits of what a human being can feel without breaking. You are broadening the spectrum of human experience for the rest of us. Trial 6. The relentless sting of existential hunger. Jung observed that while most are content with survival, the rare individual is haunted by the need for significance. Do you feel a constant restlessness? A sense that you are meant for a mission you haven't quite identified? You can have the perfect career and a loving family, yet still feel like you are wasting time. This is meaning-seeking compulsion. Your soul rejects a life that is merely comfortable. Jung found that this agitation actually increases as you age. It is your psyche's way of demanding individuation, the process of becoming your true, unadulterated self. You aren't meant to find peace in the status quo. You are meant to be a catalyst. Your dissatisfaction is evolutionary. You are uncomfortable because you are meant to move. You are the friction that causes the spark of change in your community and your lineage. Trial 7. The weight of carrying the future. Jung's most guarded secret was the concept of future consciousness. He believed certain people are born temporarily displaced. You see potential where others see dead ends. You feel the pull of a world that doesn't exist yet. This is the ultimate burden, being aware of humanity's next step while everyone else is focused on the previous one. You feel responsible for a message that no one is ready to hear. Jung argued that you are humanity's insurance policy. When society reaches an impasse, people like you provide the exit strategy. You are the bridge between what we are and what we must become. This is why you've never fit in. You weren't designed to fit into the present. You were designed to lead into the future. Your struggle isn't a sign of failure, it's a sign of your functional necessity. If these 7 trials define your life, understand that you are exactly what the world requires right now. Your sensitivity is your strength. Your isolation is your training. Your restlessness is your compass. Jung believed the greatest tragedy was for a rare soul to try and be normal. The world has enough drones, it needs pioneers. Embrace the burden of your rarity. If this journey resonated with you, please hit the like button and let us know your experiences in the comments for Winds of Thought. We are building a sanctuary for those who think too much and feel too deeply. You are not broken. You are rare. You are necessary. You are necessary. You are necessary. Your journey is just beginning. Would you like to see more on how to harness these gifts? Watch our next video on the power of the shadow self.